Hello farmers and aspiring farmers. Thank you for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Now, in most episodes here on this platform, we normally talk of agricultural production methods, be it subsistence farming, commercial farming, smallholder farming, and large-scale farming. But in this very episode, we want to look at blueberries production, aiming at the export market. We want to look at how they are maintaining quality and quantity throughout the various stages of production. Stay tuned. At this point in time, I have taken the liberty of inviting Mr. Herbert Nyakujika. He is a blueberries production expert working here in Zimbabwe. Nyakujika, thank you for affording us an opportunity to visit your workplace.
Thank you. You are welcome.
As we get into our discussion, can you maybe highlight the varieties of blueberries that we do have and also those that can be produced given our Zimbabwe climatic conditions?
Okay. The blueberry varieties that we have, there are many, but I will just mention a few that we have. We have got about 10 varieties on this entity, which is we have got the Akala, we have got Susie Blue, we have got Jupiter. There is also Ventura, we have got the Kira, we have got the Myra. We also have Atlas, and there is also the other varieties that we are putting onto trials at the moment, which we have just started rearing, like the Olympus and the Ezra. We also have quite a plot of some other varieties that are still under trial.
Okay.
But most of them are proving to be good at the moment.
Now, Mr. Nyakujika, looking at the climatic conditions, those that are conducive for blueberries production, or maybe those ecological zones that you might want to point around Zimbabwe, the areas, the provincial areas that support profitable blueberries production. Can you talk to us in terms of that?
Just given the trials or the production areas that have been tried with the blueberries, I think up to region 3, all those areas, they do quite well. But maybe looking at area zones, we have got different climatic conditions. In frost-prone areas, I think it will be a challenge because production of blueberries is in winter. Like now, we are starting to be harvesting in late March up to September, which means that's the winter window in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
And then, given the quality of the blueberry, which gets quite soft in hot temperatures, I don't think in regions that are very hot it will perform.
Okay. Now, Mr. Nyakujika, I also want to look at pertinent issues in blueberries production. Those that speak to number of plants per hectare, for starters. Secondly, I also want us to look at the yield per shrub. This is a shrub. What are we looking at in terms of kilograms or grams that it can give us in a season?
Okay. All these factors vary according to varieties. But just basically, like on this investment, we have got 4,500 plants per hectare for some other smaller shrubs, and then 5,000 plants per hectare in some other shrubs. But that also varies with the sort of setup that we are putting up. I mean the irrigation. We also have got to match the number of the population per hectare in regards to the setup of the irrigation. But here, let's say basically we are looking at 5,000 plants per hectare.
Per hectare.
The lifespan of a blueberry also varies with the variety.
Okay.
But let's take a range. The ones that we have here, we're expecting them to be productive up to 9 years. The 10th year, it will be tailing off. Some can go above that, but that is now dependent on varieties. Also on production, we can work on an average because we are also talking of varietal things which are different. At the moment, we are actually looking at having 7 kgs per shrub per season.
Can you talk to us in terms of in-row spacing and inter-row spacing? From one plant to the next plant, what are we looking at in terms of centimeters or meters? And within the row, what are we also looking at from one side to the other in terms of meters or centimeters?
All right. Like I said, some of the varieties, the population of the varieties is dependent on irrigation. In some cases, we have got an interrow of 3 meters, and then in row we will go 0.9 meters. Some we have got 2.5 meters interrow, and then in row we will go to a meter.
I can tell that we have various plots of blueberries. Where we are standing here, we have the shrubs placed in pots, in vases, where there is a medium where they are growing from. And on the other side, we have the plants planted directly on top of soil heaps covered with weed mats. And also on the other side, we have blueberries in greenhouses. Can you talk to us initially about the difference of having your blueberries within a pot and also having them directly into the soil?
That is all dependent on economics.
Okay.
We are talking
Your
about
financial capability.
capabilities of establishing. Like you can see, this entity here is all open land. We've got quite a big hectarage here, and it calls for quite a big investment to put up the greenhouses, which are quite good, because if we put up greenhouses, we take advantage of the control over environmental issues of the production area. I'm talking of temperatures, wind, hail, or heavy rains. You can control all that with
Within a greenhouse.
within a greenhouse. In the open, all those will play the way they want. So now, talking of the pots, in the pots we have got a special growing media, which is also a financial commitment,
Yes.
as compared to planting direct onto the soil. But the commitment of putting up that that extra finance is also realized at the end. Because of profitability, because the growing media that we use here is quite good, like the loamy soils, and it allows good temperature for
Good
the
drainage.
roots, good drainage for the roots, and also the infection of diseases is
limited.
controlled in the growing media that is in the pots.
Okay.
So that's an advantage, which will give you the given advantage at the end of the yield. Whereas you can have problems on the soil, and that can drain your financial position.
On that note, we've come to the end of the first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, farmers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Today, we are looking at one of those most lucrative ventures in agriculture, which is blueberries production that are headed and produced specifically for the export market. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore. It's on 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments and suggestions. They are most welcome to us. Our YouTube channel is Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's at Agribusiness 110. Mr. Nyakujiga, we are here in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let us look at your irrigation means techniques that you are into here at your place, and also the millimeters that you are targeting per plant per given period, be it a week, be it a day, be it a month, and also the determinants. What determines the amount of water that a blueberry requires? And also, apart from that, I want us to look at the important nutrients that are essential for blueberries establishment and growth.
Okay, thank you. Starting off on irrigation. Our irrigation here is all drip irrigation, and it's all set up on a computerized system. And our drip irrigation is directed to, on this scenario, to a pot, and on the soil beds is also directed to the plant. So on scheduling of irrigation, what happens here is that the determining factors here is evaporation, how much evaporation has gone on in the land, which is put down as the first factor to consider. Then we have got the second factor to consider is that when we are irrigating, we check how much we will have applied as the delivery, and then we check against the drain. That means we go to the bottom of the pot and check how much water is coming out as excess. And that will tell us if it is too much, it will tell you from the excess that is coming out, it will be very much. And if it is very little, that will tell you that the plant is taking more water in the pot. So all that put together, and then we also have got determining factors, like you always know, that the growth stage of the plant or the production stage of the plant. At pruning, you don't need that much water. And also at flowering, you have got to keep monitoring to make sure that you give good water. But to say we will apply so much millimeters is not a case of putting down as a thumb of rule, but it's a case of monitoring the factors around the requirement of the crop.
What are those nutrients that are essential when it comes to blueberries establishment?
Right, the fertilizer application on the blueberries doesn't have the basal and the top dressings, but it's all soluble fertilizers, but providing the same nutrients. That is the phosphate, the potash, the nitrogen, magnesium, the boron, the manganese. All that range is all brought in as soluble, including the micros, like the borons that will come into play, especially important on the flowering stages. The phosphate that is there for the upkeep of the plant is continuously just being pumped up. But what we have now is a scenario where the scheduling of the fertilizer application differs in application of a particular fertilizer. By this I mean, like when we are just pruning, we don't need those fertilizers that we need when, like, let me give you examples here. We will need the calcium, which will give us a good quality of the crop, of the product, that is the produce. So in the initial stage, it comes in, but very limited, just for the upkeep of the plant. But when now we are into production, where we are looking at quality, that's when we need the calcium, the potash, which now gives us the quality of the fruit. So by this I mean the schedules now have got to correspond with the growth stage, the production stage of the crop.
Looking at weed management, what chemicals do you use? What strategies or techniques that you employ to ensure that you have a weed-free field?
Right, the weed control management system here is all manual.
Okay.
Why? Because we are trying to limit the use of chemicals in all, because if you look around, you'll see that most of the herbicides that we have now are red or purple labels, which are all out of the
requirements for the export market.
Yes. So what we do here is we utilize the weed mat, and then in the pots we just weed by hand. But what we are also trying to do now is to get real sand, and then after filling the pots with the regrow, which is the growing media for the blueberry, we put sand on top, which sort of mulches and the seed might be suppressed from germinating. That's one technique that we are using in the pots. But apart from that, it's all mechanical control.
Okay, Mr. Nyakuchika, as we close this segment, people might want to know, within this bucket, this verse, in terms of kilograms of the planting medium, how much does this hold? And also looking at that portion where we have heaps of sand, where the blueberries are planted directly in the sand, how far is the distance from the ground up to where the plant is starting?
On the ridges, we just make up our ridges up to 30 centimeters above
from the ground.
From the working ground, we just raise them 30 centimeters up.
Okay.
That's the height of the ridge. In the pots, it's a 25-liter pot, but we put in 20 kilograms of the growing media.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nyakujia, for such a detailed presentation. On that note, viewers, we've come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, farmers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030, where we are looking at SDGs 1, 2, and even 12. They speak of poverty eradication, alleviation of hunger, responsible production and consumption, respectively. Vanyakujga, we are here in the final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I want us to look at insect pest management or disease management that are often rampant when it comes to blueberries production. What are we looking at? What chemicals or strategies that you put in place to ensure that at the end of the day, your blueberries look attractive, you are maintaining quality and quantity throughout all the stages of production?
On insect control on the blueberries, we are taking up an integrated pest management system, which is a three-wing undertaking. We use chemicals, but to a lesser extent. We are taking up as the major control system is biological control. We also have cultural control of all the insects here. Just to elaborate on the cultural control, this is where we are keeping all the crops clean, because the host plants of insects and diseases will have cleared them off the lands, and just keep everything clean to make sure that we don't have any infestations or any disease developments. Then we go on to the biological systems. We have got biological chemicals that are being produced, which are not toxic at all.
Okay.
User friendly and
environmentally friendly
as well. Those are the ones that we are trying to promote at the moment in our control system, which also encompasses even bringing in live insects to control other insects, like the predators that we can also import and bring in. Once we have got any infestation, like for example, if we have got any red spider mites, we can bring in the presimiles, and then they can control the red spider mites. The final segment of chemicals we use here and there, but rarely. But all we have got to do on our insect and pest and diseases control is we keep monitoring whatever is happening in the environment. So we have got trained scouters who are out every day, and they give feedback of whatever is happening. We plot that onto graphs, and we monitor the trend of whatever is infesting the crop. And before we decide on chemicals, we decide on preventative measures. In some cases, like if I can give an example of the fruit fly, in some cases we use the pheromone traps, which can trap the males and stop any further breeding of the
reproduction.
Fruit fly. Yeah, there is no further reproduction in that sector. We also use those sticky traps.
Oh,
where
the yellow ones that we are seeing throughout.
That we are seeing around here. Anything that flies around can stick onto that.
What do you look at? What do they expect when it comes to blueberries? Do they want those dark black? I can see that there are various stages of fruit development here. Right. Some are already dark purplish, some are still a bit lightish, and some are still very much not ready for harvesting. What do you look at when you start harvesting?
Right. When we get on to harvesting, there are different customers that take our product. Firstly, let me talk of sizes. Some prefer the larger ones, which we measure in millimeters. We have got the 22 plus millimeters, that is the larger size. So when we are harvesting, we can also harvest that for a particular customer. Some will take the different sizes of the crop, but going back to the indicators of what we are going actually to reap, the blueberry will be green initially. It turns into a purplish color or pink color, and then what happens is when the pink is getting finished, the pink just remains where the blueberry attaches to the
To the
pistil,
stalk, to the stem.
to the stem, yes. So you look at the back there. If there is no more pink at the back, that means the blueberry is fully ripe.
Ready for harvesting.
But that is just visually checking from here.
Okay.
We also can take it to the packing shed. They also test for bricks and firmness. There are machines that we use for testing bricks, that is the sugars.
Oh, okay.
When it is not fully ripe, it still has got very low sugar.
Okay.
So those tests will also assist us to know the actual ripening stage of the blueberry.
Okay, finally, as we close this segment, Mr. Nyakujiga, like I highlighted earlier, the export market has its own expectations. What does the export market normally demand or require from producers, from farmers?
The first thing is that when you are doing an export venture like this one, you are expected to undergo a global gap audit.
Okay.
Where the good agricultural practices are actually assessed on your entity to make sure that your production practices are not violating environmental
Okay.
issues. They are also not violating the labor regulations, and they are not also contaminating any water bodies or anything
around
else.
you.
So that is what the global gap checks. We also have got an audit that is called the SMETA that checks mainly on treatment of labor.
Okay.
So we should know that you are looking after the labor according to the labor regulations, and you are also supporting their livelihoods. And then you also have got to check on your own whether you are practicing the best use of chemicals, the best use of fertilizers. There is some cases where you overuse, which the customer might be not interested in, because we have got set what they call a minimum residual level of the chemicals that should be found in the product. Blueberry. So the product should be sent for testing to check for any chemicals that are above the minimum residual level of that chemical in the plant. Now when it comes to the handling now, that's where you also have got to be very particular about not contaminating the product, and also producing at the same time a very presentable fruit. Like in this case, if you have got these blueberries like this, when you are touching them, you don't have to touch everywhere else. They end up black like that.
With fingerprints all over.
So this bloom is also part of the quality of the blueberry. That means whatever utensils we use, all the people that are harvesting have got to be washing their hands and then sanitizing as they come back.
Okay.
So those are some of the quality issues that we look at once we are harvesting, and then we put the berries into grades.
Okay.
So they become presentable, and any customer can just choose the quality that he requires.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nyakujiga. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you very much.
There you heard it, viewers. Today we were looking at blueberries production, aligning it to export market expectations. You would find that most of our Zimbabwean farmers are really interested into getting into produce that goes on to foreign markets, because it does bring in the much needed foreign currency. But at the end of the day, they might encounter difficulties when it comes to acquiring knowledge and even establishing the connections that lead them directly to the market. Today we're looking at how to maintain quality and quantity throughout the various stages of blueberries production. From me, your host was Zanai Manyora. I'm also on Instagram. It's at Wazi110. It was a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for watching.